This video is now in session, and in the August outlook, we give the Democrats 51 seats in the Senate, and we believe that Republicans will retain 49 of those other seats. Now, how did we make this determination? A lot of it was based off of the state of Georgia. And Georgia, in our opinion, as of now, if the election was held today, it would go to Raphael Warnock. Now, why is this? If you look at 538, you'll see that Walker, the Republican challenger, and Raphael Warnock, the incumbent senator, they're a statistical tie, 50-50 split. And if you look at the popular vote that for a 538 forecast, they believe that if the election was held today, that Warnock would get 49.4% of the vote versus 49% for Walker. So that's only a 0.4% margin win for Warnock. And they have reasons to say so. If you look at the governor's race, which is a much more well-known Brian Kemp amongst suburban voters of Georgia, this race is a lot more appealing to the Republican Party. Back in 2018, Brian Kemp went against Stacey Abrams, and even though he won, it was by small margins. But that was a blue wave year, and now we're in a red wave year where it's unfavorable for the Democrats just because they are the incumbents in Congress and in the White House. And the other thing is that Brian Kemp appeals to moderate voters, to suburban voters in Georgia. That's the important thing for this state, how to appeal to suburban voters. And Brian Kemp is pretty effective at doing that, given his record of going against Trump during the 2020 election and beating Trump's opponent in the 2022 primary. So 538 has justifications for saying that this race is close. But the reason why we give Warnock the Senate seat as of now is if you look at all the polls, most of them have Warnock up compared to Walker. And if you look at the aggregate polling, 538 has Warnock up by 3 percentage points. Now, why is this important? Back in the 2020 election, the polls in Georgia, there were not that many in the runoff races, but in those runoff races, out of those polls, if you look at the aggregate total, they were pretty close to the overall total that actually happened. They were off by maybe 1 to 2 percentage points, but they were pretty accurate. And the same goes for the 2020 general election. So given that, given the accuracy of the polls in Georgia, as well as Warnock's political reputability in making himself approachable through advertisements, as well as Herschel Walker having a ton of baggage through his past domestic abuse allegations against him, and simply the fact that Trump never wins in Georgia at this point, we think that Georgia will go to the Democrats in the Senate race by lean margins. And just elaborating on that Trump bit, ever since the 2020 election, Trump has lost in Georgia in some way or another. If you look at the 2020 election, he lost that race against Joe Biden. If you look at the 2 runoff races that happened a few months after in January of 2021, he lost in both races. If you look at the Republican primary in the Georgia's governor's races, he lost that one as well when he tried to get David Perdue to go against Brian Kemp. Now, obviously, he won in this primary with Herschel Walker, but that's because the Republicans, the establishment Republicans, weren't able to mount any reputable challenger. So we expect those string of losses for Trump to continue, and that's ultimately leading us to this categorization of a lean D race. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next rating.